It's a strange feeling this morning waking up to find an entirely changed and disrupted trade environment across the globe. And so to say that 10% it could be worse is of course a peculiar position to be in. Of course, we must remember that automotive, steel, aluminium products are subject to the higher tax rate, to 25% tax rate as well. So we mustn't forget that, and that is a devastating blow for those sectors. But overall, I think the government in the UK has managed to keep a cool head and navigate its way through some of the difficulties in which we now found ourselves.
Alex, something that's jumped out all along has been the disproportionate impact of trade tariffs. And we've been talking about it from the context of big nations versus small nations, Western nations versus developing. But I want to bring up the SME side, because the Russell 2K stateside has been a reverse. And as we take stock of some of the small and medium-sized enterprises globally, to me it seems as though the trade environment has become much more difficult for these companies that don't have a deep bench of lawyers standing by to weigh up what these tariffs would look like and put that into the system. How much more difficult an environment is this for small to medium-sized enterprises?
Yeah, you're quite right. Again, the transaction costs are always proportionally higher for smaller businesses, aren't they? Because as you say, they may not have the deep bench of professional services firms on tap, and also reserves they can tap into to access those support functions. And you know, it's not only the monetary cost of the tariff itself, it's looking at the way that contracts are structured, which Incoterms are used, who pays the duty at the end of the chain. Interesting in your report about cars being held at ports in the US, we may well see a rise in the use of customs warehousing to ride out some of this, or perhaps see what tariffs are applied, or just have time to actually put the sticker on to say what the final price is going to be. Now, of course, in the logistics world, those things aren't free. These all add costs on top. And so I think the SMEs and supply chain will need to be working very closely with the tier ones in their sectors to understand how are these costs going to be passed through, what can be loaded onto different parts of the customer journey, and where does it leave them. But it's yet another blow to that core engine of growth, which is the small and medium enterprises in the UK.
Alex, we haven't even talked about the biggest implication for the UK yet, and that is that this is almost certainly going to blow out the water everything that Rachel Reeves clawed together last week. SMEs and the members of the British Chamber of Commerce, they're going to be thwarted in their hopes of lower taxation, aren't they? The government's got to find more money from somewhere. It's a disaster for Rachel Reeves, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't help. We tend to shy away from words like disaster at the British Chambers. Of course, we've come through Brexit, we've come through COVID, and now we're coming through this. Now, what we were hoping for was an easement on the taxation burden on business. That seems difficult, but the government were always sticking to their guns as well and saying, look, we've raised national insurance costs, so the cost of employment have gone up a lot, and that comes in this week. They're also putting up employment costs through the Employment Rights Bill. So again, that's another major headache for business. What we had been told is, look, we're not coming back for more. What we want to see is a roadmap that takes us out of this position over time so that businesses can plan for a lower tax world. Now, that seems further away today, but we keep pushing and we keep talking about the need to generate growth in this country, whether that's through the planning reforms that are coming through, whether that's building up our skills base. And you know, we do need to be thinking about additional markets to the US, and that includes carrying on with this reset with the EU. So the UK is in a different position than before Brexit. We have to be careful and considered working with the EU as our other biggest trading partner, as well as trying to find an accommodation with the US over time, including, we hope, a trade deal.